Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. In today's video we'll learn all about the basic selection tool in Illustrator. So let's hop inside. I'm sure you guys used the basic selection tool already in the past, but we'll go through all the different options of this tool. So the basic selection tool should be right on top here, shortcut V, and it helps you to select any tool, any objects or any elements or shapes that may be on your artboard. So let's just create some shapes to start off with. Cool. So as you can see, we've got here some basic shapes which I just created now, and with the selection tool you can hover any object just to select it. Once you've done that, you'll see a bounding box around that shape. With this bounding box you can either enlarge the tool simply by going to any of these little squares by the bounding box and dragging and pulling. You can also hold down shift to keep the same proportions as the original shape was, or hold down alt. You can hold both keys as well, hold down alt or option on a Mac to let the shape start from the center outwards. Now once you go to any of these, you'll see this little icon changing. That's to enlarge or to shrink, like we said. If you go on the corner, you'll see, or on the outside of any of these things actually, you'll see this cursor changing to these rounded arrows. If you click and hold down, you'll be able to turn the shape around, and if you hold shift while turning, then you'll be turning it in 45-degree angles. Let's try it on this square. So I'm pulling it and then holding down shift. You can see it's going around 45-degree angles, and you can just let go of that. Also, in any shape which is a square, not a round shape, you'll see the small rounded dot or circle within the shape's element, and if you hold down this, you'll see the cursor changes there. Then that will round the corners. So you can make it now a rounded square. You can also round this over there, and you can round all the edges. You can bring it back as well, same way, just to bring it back. If you want to round only one specific edge, then click on that small circle there and you'll see it's highlighted in blue. Then you can pull it and only that specific corner will be affected. You can also duplicate a layer simply by selecting it and holding down alt. You can see the cursor changes there, and putting it down wherever you want, and you should get a new of the same object or layer once again there. You can always transform it using the properties panel or the transform panel. We'll go over that at some other point. To select a few objects at once, you can either drag, as you can see there's this square starting up there. You can drag and select those objects you want to select, and you can see these are selected, or you can select and holding down shift keep on selecting whichever objects you want, and you'll see I've got those selected. You can also deselect any object by carrying on to hold shift. Let's say if I selected these, just putting it over, then you can always come to deselect them with this shift button. Now once I selected a few objects, you can group these together pressing on the shortcut Control or Command G, and that will turn the whole thing into one group. So now if I select any of these objects which are within the group, the whole group will be selected, and as you can see they move together as one element. Also when I resize them, they'll all be resized as one group. I can rotate them, etc. Will all be done to the group in its entirety. If you want to edit now a shape within this group, you obviously won't be able to, and you can see this question mark over the color because it has numerous colors in this one group, so it can't give us a specific color there. You can double click a shape within this group. Say I want to click on the star, you double click that, that'll bring you in this isolation mode. That means everything is isolated besides for this group. Then you press on the object you want to choose within this group, you click on it once and you'll have only that selected. Now you can change the color or size or anything for that matter, and it will still be part of the group. So you can see you can move it around and it's still part of the group. You can see I can't really select any other object because it's in this isolation mode. To exit this isolation mode, you can either click on this gray area or click this arrow on the side. You can't see it because of this panel there. On this arrow, that's to exit, or otherwise you can just double click on any other white space. That'll take you out of this isolation mode. To ungroup a layer, you can either select it and right click ungroup, or otherwise shift command G. That will ungroup them. As you can see now, I can group it. And just notice that you don't have to have them in a group to be able to move them all together, so you can scale it down just by simply selecting them. They're not in the same group, just selecting a few of them together, but we'll learn about why a group is beneficial in other lessons. Now, say I've got a few groups, a few shapes or elements one on the other, and I want to select, even let's say this is completely covered, I want to select that star behind this. So you can press Control or Command and click once, and every time you click it will drop a layer. So now it's selecting this red. If it's selected one more time, we'll select that star behind that. If I had another shape, then we'll select the one below that. But now that I don't have, I'm still holding down the Control or Command on a Mac. And once I select again, once I press again, then it will jump to the top layer again. So that's an easy method. Otherwise, you can always press on Control Alt or Command Option and the square bracket. So the difference between this method and simply just pressing Control and selecting is that holding down Control or Command while you're selecting only will select anything that's under your cursor. So it won't select that and it won't select that, even though it's under this shape. But if you're holding down Control, Alt and your square brackets, it will select anything which is under this layer where you originally were on. Now, to select everything that's on your work document, press Control or Command A for all. That will select every single thing. You can see the whole thing is selected. Or otherwise, you can always go to Select and choose the all to select everything on the active artboard. If you've got a few artboards, you can select only on the artboard you're on. You can select everything on that base. Then you've got deselect. If you selected something, you can always deselect it from there. Say if you can't press anywhere else because everything is full of elements, let's say, maybe that will be a good useful way of using it. Reselect is just to reselect the last element you selected. And then you've got inverse. If you want to choose everything else besides for the object you're selecting, you can always go to select and press inverse. That will select everything else besides that. So say I've got this graphic element which I want to keep, and all the others I want to discard. Instead of going ahead and selecting each other graphic element, you can just go to select, inverse, and then press backspace or to delete all those spaces. I'm just doing Control Z to redo. There you have next object above or next object below. We've gone through that. That's to select the objects underneath it. Now I'll show you another cool feature. Let me just delete these things. This is a cool thing. You can see in any round object, you can create an ellipse, a full circle, or anything you want. You'll see when you have this selection tool, there is this small circle that doesn't exist by the square ones. And if you click on it, you can pull along to create this pie shape. So that's a cool tip to know. You can go to the other side to have only this much of the angle, and you can always come and adjust it. So that's just a quick way of making pies. Also, sometimes you may not be able to select some objects because it doesn't have a bounding box or any of that. I get guys that's stuck with it and they don't know how to select an object. Many times it's because your view had bounding box, so you have to choose show bounding box. If it's hidden, you can see there's no bounding box around. So I could still select it, but just as it makes it harder, you can always go to view and show bounding box, or otherwise sometimes it could be because of your hide edges. so you can't see the edges there and you may not be able to select it, so you can always go to view and show edges. Now one last cool thing, you could obviously use your direct selection tool, but if you're being lazy or if it's quicker or whatever the case may be, you can always press Control or Command on a Mac and click on any of your anchor points which you want to move. You can see the cursor changes there to white, and once you give it a click, sorry, you have to click it before, and you'll be able to move only that anchor point that you clicked on. And you can see you can properly use it like the direct selection tool. That will go over next lesson. Also with the circle, the same thing, you can choose to edit the handles or change the circle and all of that, so that's a cool thing to know about. Let's just go over all the different options we had. So you have this cursor appear for just any regular when you haven't selected anything, and you have this cursor appear if you are above any object which you are able to select. So you'll see this cursor with a black symbol there, and you will have this symbol appear when you have selected. So if you're on the selected area of your selection, you'll see that little bounding box appear that shows you can move it, because from here you obviously won't be able to move your selection. Then if you go to any of the edges, if you're standing on this anchor point, you'll see this two arrows, that's to resize the object. If you're standing outside the anchor point, then you'll see these two rounded squares that to turn the element or object. When you're in any square shape, then you'll see these little round corners inside, and you can see the cursor changes to that rounded symbol that allows you to round the shape. If you select the little round circle, then you'll see it changes with that circle symbol as well. It shows that it's going to affect only one corner. Then if you hold down Alt or Option, you'll see these two arrows appear that shows that it's going to duplicate the shape. Then like we mentioned before, just delete a few of these stuff there. Like we mentioned before, when you have a circular shape, then you see this small little arrow there, that's to make this pie, so you'll see this symbol there as well. And to select something which is below that layer, then when you're holding down Control or Command, then you'll see this little arrow next to your selection tool appear that shows it's going to select the one below or above it. And the last one is when you're editing a shape and you're holding down Control or Command, then you'll see it changes to this white arrow to allow you to control anchor point. So I think we've gone through all these options. If you know of any other option or any other appearance of this selection tool, so please leave it in the comments below. I'll be happy to see. Thank you so much. If you gained anything from this video, please give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.